the publisher of Campaigns and Elections magazine, and Matthew Continetti, publisher, I'm sorry, not the publisher, but from the Washington Free Beacon. Welcome to both of you. Shane, first of all, the constant drip, drip, drip of allegations around this email situation, is that the reason or the bulk of the reason that Hillary Clinton's poll numbers are dropping?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that the months of headlines over the email controversy and also the donations surrounding the Clinton Foundation, that has clearly taken a huge toll on her numbers. When you look at not only her numbers in some of the key primary states, but I think the most worrying thing for many Democrats, and certainly the most worrying thing that should be for the Clinton campaign, is when you look at how her numbers are eroding in some key battleground states in hypothetical general election matchups. I think that's got to be a huge concern for the campaign. The Clinton campaign has been constantly on the defensive, and that is just a terrible posture for any presidential campaign.
So sticking with you for the moment, Shane, is that enough? I mean, is her campaign off the rails?
I don't know that it's quite off the rails. There clearly are Democrats that are very concerned, and they're more concerned looking toward the general election. When you look at her path to the Democratic nomination, despite the rise of Bernie Sanders, despite that MUR poll, I don't see anything yet that sort of really imperils her path to that, and that's just because I think there's a lack of alternatives out there to Hillary Clinton in the primary. I don't think, unlike 2008, when there was an underdog Barack Obama, somebody who would be able to galvanize Democrats. Bernie Sanders is no Barack Obama, and I don't think Martin O'Malley is either. So it really is a question of what's the Democratic alternative. But the concern among strategists that I'm hearing growing louder is her electability come to a general election.
All right, now to Matthew Continetti, who is the editor of Beacon, not the publisher, as I misstated earlier. Hillary Clinton's campaign says this is much ado about nothing. Is that true?
Oh, I don't think so at all. But of course, the Hillary campaign has said a lot of things that aren't exactly true, John. I mean, anytime you have the words FBI investigation connected with an email server that was in your house, I think if you're a political candidate or operative, you better start worrying. And this is a big issue, not only a political one in terms of furthering the narrative that Hillary Clinton is untrustworthy, which is really gaining traction in the polls, but also a legal one. I mean, remember, this is these laws against having classified information that's accessible on to others have been enforced, and rigorously, by the Obama administration. So this is a big problem for her politically and legally.
All right, Matthew, Shane, stick with us for just a moment. We've got the big Republican debate coming up tomorrow night. We want to get your thoughts about the 7 who will participate in the first debate and the 10 on stage for the big one. Tomorrow in Cleveland, the first Republican presidential debate is set. Let's talk about it once again with Shane DeApril, publisher of Campaigns and Elections magazine, and Matthew Continetti, the editor of the Washington Free Beacon. Shane, is it make or break tomorrow? I mean, some of these candidates are saying, oh, it's not a big deal, it's early, it's a long way till the election, this debate is not such a big deal. What do you think?
It can very well be make or break for some candidates on that stage. I think what we've seen, even with these early primary debates, John, is that somebody has a slip-up, that becomes magnified. Somebody who's a lower-tier candidate at the moment, polling down toward the bottom tier, can have a moment, and that could galvanize a campaign. So you can't underestimate the potential power of even an early debate with a crowded stage. I think the big question for Thursday is the Trump effect, right? And which Donald Trump actually shows up on that stage. Is it the fire-breathing Trump, or is it the softer, more issue-focused Trump, as he has seemed to promise?
Yeah, Matthew, the kinder, gentler Trump was on the O'Reilly factor, promising that, well, kind of tamping down expectations, suggesting that he doesn't debate all the time like these guys do, and he might not do as well as they might. What do you think? What should we expect?
Well, it's classic front-runner behavior, which Donald Trump now is. He's a front-runner for the Republican nomination. Look, I think he is going to try to play it nice. He's not going to be on the offensive against the other candidates like he has been in recent weeks. He's said in multiple occasions he's only going to attack the other candidates if they attack him first. So if I were advising the other candidates, I'd make your case like you did earlier this week at that forum in New Hampshire. But don't try to engage the Donald, because then chances are you're going to lose.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of guys on that stage. I'm thinking about Chris Christie, John Kasich, who are known to be combative from time to time. Do they go after him, Matthew?
Again, I think in both cases of those governors, you want to stress why they're running for president, what their record tells the country about how they would govern as president. Because once you make it a mano-a-mano fight against Donald Trump, who's been a national celebrity now for several decades, who knows how to portray himself in the media, who isn't afraid of anyone or anything, I think you're in a bad position as a Republican challenger.
Would you offer the same advice, Shane?
You know, I think if you're Scott Walker, if you're Jeb Bush, I don't think there's much to be gained, if anything, by engaging Donald Trump, certainly not by going after Donald Trump. Perhaps if I'm one of the lower tier candidates, maybe I do go after Trump, and maybe that's part of my strategy to share in some of that Trump spotlight. So I think it depends campaign by campaign. But listen, for 10 candidates on this stage, this is everyone's chance to really sort of give their elevator pitch. And I think focusing on another candidate, making it too Trump-centric, I don't think that helps anybody on the stage.
It is going to be hot in Cleveland, that's for sure. Shane DeApril, Matthew Continetti, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure to